commercially as well, economically.
Sports in other fields as well.
You small children, don't watch this.
He ruined me. Those are the words flying around golf, not from one player, not from one tournament, from an entire sport that felt like it had been torn in half. Greg Norman was once the best golfer on the planet. He was tall, fearless, and one of the most exciting players the game had ever seen. But by the time LIV Golf exploded onto the scene, Norman had become one of the most blamed men in all of sport. Some fans believe he named 7 golfers who tried to destroy his career. But the real story is bigger than that, and it is a lot darker. Before we go any further, give this video some hype if you think golf's biggest battles deserve to be told properly. It only takes a second, and it helps more than you know. Greg Norman won 2 Open Championships. He reached #1 in the world. He was known as the Great White Shark. For years, his name meant power, swagger, and a kind of fearless ambition that golf had never quite seen before. He was not just a great player, he was a force. But forces can be destructive, and when Norman decided to take on the entire structure of professional golf, he did not just ruffle feathers. He started a war. The conflict came to a head in 2022 when LIV Golf launched as a rival to the PGA Tour. LIV was backed by Saudi money, offered massive prize funds, and promised players freedom from the traditional tour calendar. Norman was its CEO. He was the face of the rebellion. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan was not going to let this pass quietly. In February 2022, at a players' meeting at the Honda Classic, Monahan warned players directly. He told anyone thinking about joining the rival league to walk out the door right then and go. He made it clear that joining LIV could mean lifetime suspension from the PGA Tour. Norman fired back. He sent a memo titled "PGA Tour cannot ban players who join LIV Golf." He argued that players were independent contractors. The tour could not legally stop them from working wherever they wanted. He backed this up with 7 clear legal points. Those 7 points covered a lot of ground. Norman argued the tour was acting like an illegal monopoly. He said the tour's power to suspend players went far beyond what its rules actually allowed. He pointed out that the tour's nonprofit status could be at risk if it kept acting in anti-competitive ways. He challenged the tour's control over media rights, its system of refusing player releases, and its refusal to even sit down and talk with LIV. He was not holding back. This is the first place where the number 7 enters the story. 7 legal arguments, not 7 golfers. That is important to understand. LIV's first event was held at the Centurion Club in June 2022. Within half an hour of the first tee shots, the PGA Tour suspended 17 players, major winners and veterans. Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Sergio Garcia, and others all received notices. They had played without releases. The tour made its move fast. The players did not accept it. They fought back in court. An antitrust lawsuit was filed in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. At first, 11 players were part of it, but some dropped out. They decided to let LIV Golf itself carry the legal load. When the dust settled, exactly 7 players stayed in the case as active plaintiffs. Those 7 were Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, Ian Poulter, Peter Uihlein, Matt Jones, Tyler Gooch, and Hudson Swafford. Here's where the confusion really starts. These were not 7 golfers trying to ban Norman. These were 7 golfers who had been banned by the PGA Tour and were fighting back. They were on Norman's side in this fight. But the number 7, attached to a story about bans in golf, started to get mixed up online. That mix-up is where the viral headline came from. Now go back 30 years. Because this was not the first time Norman had tried to shake up professional golf. In November 1994, Norman stood up at the Shark Shootout and proposed a world golf tour. His idea was a global elite series, 8 big events, huge prize money, the top 40 players in the world competing on a truly international stage. He believed golf was growing and that the tour's structure was holding the sport back. The PGA Tour's new commissioner, Tim Fincham, saw it as a direct threat. He warned players that anyone who joined unsanctioned events could be suspended. But the real blow did not come from the commissioner's office. It came from Norman's fellow players. The legends turned on him. Arnold Palmer stood up and tore the idea apart. He said breaking away would destroy the tour. Then he walked out of the room. Jack Nicklaus backed Palmer and helped turn the consensus against Norman. Lanny Wadkins said that if the tour was not good enough for Arnie, it was not good enough for him. Gary Player opposed the plan. Paul Azinger had been open to it at first, but after Palmer and Nicklaus spoke, he pulled back. Fred Couples and Corey Pavin stood with the tour. That is 7 figures from 1994 who helped shut Norman down. Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Lanny Wadkins, Paul Azinger, Fred Couples, and Corey Pavin. And that rejection left a mark. Nick Price, one of Norman's closest friends at the time, had supported the global tour idea at first, but he pulled away under tour pressure. Their friendship was never the same. Gary Player later said Norman's LIV campaign looked like a decades-long vendetta. He believed Norman never got over what happened in 1994. And looking at what followed, it is hard to argue with that. In the LIV era, a new generation stepped into the roles once held by Palmer and Nicklaus. Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy became the loudest defenders of the PGA Tour. Tiger rejected a LIV offer that Norman himself confirmed was worth somewhere between $700 million and $800 million. That is a staggering amount to walk away from. But Tiger did not want LIV. He helped lead player meetings to restructure the tour from the inside, pushing for bigger prize funds and more elevated events. Rory McIlroy was even more vocal. He called early LIV proposals dead in the water. He took public satisfaction in passing Norman's PGA Tour win total. He made it clear the sport needed to stay together. To Norman, these were not just critics. They were the new Palmer and Nicklaus, a new wall around the same old dream, and then came golf's oldest institution. The Royal and Ancient, the body that runs the Open Championship, decided not to invite Norman to the 150th Open celebrations at St. Andrews in July 2002. They said that they wanted the focus to stay on the history of the championship. They felt that Norman's presence would pull attention toward the LIV conflict and away from the moment itself. Norman called the decision petty, but it showed something important. His fight had gone beyond the PGA Tour. Golf's oldest governing body had decided he was a distraction, not an asset. There was also the matter of world rankings. LIV events did not earn official world golf ranking points. The format was 54 holes with no cuts, which did not qualify under the ranking system's rules. LIV players began dropping down the rankings. Some risked losing access to the major championships entirely. Norman accused the majors and the ranking system of being used as tools to protect the PGA Tour and push LIV players out of the sport's biggest events. So where does the 7 golfers story really come from? It comes from different stories blending together online. There were 7 legal arguments in Norman's memo. There were 7 player plaintiffs in the antitrust lawsuit. And there were 7 major figures from 1994 who helped crush his first attempt. Digital sports channels combined all of these 7s into a single headline: Greg Norman versus 7 golfers. It is a cleaner story, but it is not the full truth. The truth is bigger. Norman did not fight 7 people. He fought a system, and that system kept growing. By the time the PGA Tour and the Saudi Public Investment Fund began working toward a peace deal, Norman had become the biggest obstacle to that peace. Reports said he was being moved out of his role as LIV's CEO. Scott O'Neill, a business executive with a background in global entertainment, was expected to take over the daily running of the league. The fighter who had started the war was no longer the right man to end it. Greg Norman forced professional golf to confront hard questions about money, power, and player freedom. Those questions needed to be asked. The bigger prize funds, the elevated events, the conversations about player rights, some of what came out of the LIV era changed the sport for the better. But the damage Norman left behind was real. Friendships were destroyed. The sport spent years at war with itself, and when golf finally started moving toward a deal, Norman was not the man they wanted at the table. The people who pushed him out were not just enemies. They were proof that golf had stopped trusting the man who had spent his whole life trying to change it.